All right, welcome to our Erev Shabbat Parashat class. Parashat Vayigash, the second to last Parashat in Sefer Bereshit. Exciting, dramatic, emotional parasha. But the question today is, how do great men react in moments of drama and emotion, and truthfully, moments of truth? Yaakov got a chance to demonstrate that in this week's parasha. In a scene that's not necessarily on the surface the most dramatic or emotional part of this parasha, in a parasha filled with those type of moments, but in a moment that could have become one which he reacted to emotion and instead reacted in a very different manner. What am I referring to? I'm referring to when Yaakov first received the news that Yosef was living. It took a while to digest, to sink in, to be believed. And once it did, and he rejoiced, and he said, Rav od Yosef ben Yechai, elecha ver'enu b'terem amut. Incredible joy. My son Yosef is alive. Nothing I've ever dreamt can possibly be true. Something beyond my wildest dreams is playing out. Let me go and let me see him before I die. I'm an elderly man. It's a long trip to Egypt. Every day, who knows what it brings. This is not necessarily the most popular, the most emotional, the most dramatic moment in the parasha. As we said, it's chock full of them. But I think that this is not only the most important pasuk in the parasha, but it's one of the most important communications from Am Yisrael, from a national perspective, really in Parashat Bereshit, and I'll tell you why. But in order to pick that up, we have to become surprised that when we look at this scene a little further and take it in context. So Yaakov Avinu, all of a sudden he's happy, he's aroused. He is, as we know, his spirit is brought back to life, according to some prophecy, is reinvigorated, and he's now in a state of euphoria, which is a stark contrast to the last 22 years, in which he was in a state of depression. The spirits are alive. He says, let me go down to see my son, Yosef, right away. And the next act needs to be buying a ticket on the bus that heads from Hebron to Egypt. Might have a few stops along the way, right? Get that ticket. If you can't, even a one-way nonstop if you can, and go right to Joseph, the viceroy, the prince. And that is exactly not what happens in the following Pesukim. Instead, let's read what happens. After he proclaims what he said he will do, Pasuk Aleph in chapter Memvav 46, it says, Vayisa Yisrael b'chol asher lo, vayavo be'er hashava. He takes everything he owns, all the people, children, other people in his encampment, all of his property, which now is in great abundance, and he goes to Be'er Sheva. Now, of course, Beersheba, south of Israel, you could say it's on the way going down to Egypt. But it doesn't say he stopped in Beersheba. It doesn't say that he went to Mitzrayim and, as we've seen before, stayed in the hotel in Beersheba. He slept in Beersheba. It said he went and he traveled to Beersheba, as if that was his intent, as if that was the final destination. And there, what did he do? He offered sacrifices. Why? To the God of his father Yitzchak. And now a prophecy came. Vayomer Elohim Yisrael b'morot halayla, vayomer Yaakov, Yaakov, vayomer Hineni. And God spoke to him in a vision of night. We're assuming that's a prophecy. His name is already Yisrael. And then Hashem decides to call him twice, Yaakov. And he says, whatever you need, God. And he tells him, You know who I am. Don't fear from going down to Egypt, because I'll make you into a great nation. What do you mean, don't fear? This is the happiest moment of his life. He's in jubilation right now. There's nothing he wants to do more than go down to Egypt. So why does Hashem have to tell him, don't fear? Don't fear going down to Egypt, because I'll make you a great nation. I'll go down with you to Egypt, and I will take you up from Egypt. And Yosef will place his hands on your eyes, which according to most means that he's going to take care of you. He's going to sustain you, and you'll have enough sustenance. You'll be well-to-do over there. And that's it. And then afterwards it says that he took all of the family and the children and property and the wagons that Yosef sent, and he went down to Egypt. What is going on? What in the world is going on in this stop? So let's first look at some of the terminologies here. Hashem said, don't fear. When else do we see Hashem telling an individual, don't fear? Two other places. One is Abraham Avinu. After the war of the Melachim, the Great World War, Abraham did his thing. He did a heroic Rambo act, and he defeated the victorious nations. He freed the captives, etc. Abraham was worried about possibly multiple different concerns, and Hashem said, Al Tira, I'm with you. I'm protecting you. Your reward is great. The next time that we see this is with Yitzhak Avinu. Back in Parashat Toledot, it says after Yitzhak had this whole struggle back and forth with the be'erot, with the wells that were refilled in an evil gesture by the Philistine, and he redug and renamed those wells. And afterwards it says, and he's in, where is he? He's in Be'er Sheva. And Hashem appeared to him by Laila Ahu, and he told him, the God of your father, Al Tira, don't fear, because I'm with you. Those are the two episodes that both his grandfather and his father, and the only two in Torah, where Hashem tells an individual, don't fear. Now, you saw two of them, ours, and the one of Yitzhak. Hashem introduced himself as the God of your father, right? And you also see that two of them, ours, and the one of Abraham, his grandfather, occurred where? In Beersheba. And actually, and his father, Yitzhak, occurred where? In Beersheba. So you see similarities in 2 out of 3 in different respects of these 3 fear episodes, but really that's where the similarities end. Because the appearance and the comfort of Hashem to Abraham's grandfather and to Yitzhak, his father, were simply personal. They had personal fears, and Hashem calmed and assured their personal fears. But this seems to be at a completely other different level. First of all, this is the only time of the 3 that it says that Hashem appeared to him b'mar'ot halayla. In the vision of night, and we know that by and large Hashem appears to prophets in forms of dreams and night visions. So it seems superfluous, unnecessary. This one said in a vision of night, which makes it different. But also the message to Yaakov was not like the message to Abraham and Yitzhak, personal assurances. This message was a national message. I'll make you into a great nation. I'll go down, I'll enter, and I'll exit with you. You'll be protected and sustained. This was a national message. This is what we call off the chart, because this is nothing really like anything we've seen before. God assuring and calming someone's fears, one of the forefathers, but then comforting with a national message in a vision of night. So let's explain what's going on here. Really, first and foremost, the main explanation that we owe ourselves is what happened to expressing his joy and ecstasy by going to see his son Yosef, which is he expressed the previous pasuk. I must go down and see him before I die. What happened before I die? Every moment counts, every day counts. Apparently not. because instead he packed his bag and bought a ticket not to Mitzrayim. He bought a ticket to Be'er Sheva. How could that be when the previous pasuk seems to contradict what he himself said? So the explanation, for starters, has to go something like this. This is Yaakov Abinu talking. And he was emotional. He's human, just like we are. Loves, misses his son. And that was a moment of joy. And he was excited to see his son. But once that's settled, and once he was able to put things into perspective, and once he was able to focus himself, Yaakov was all over the big picture. He was all over the big picture. And the big picture was that Grandpa had a vision and a prophecy. We know it as Brit Ben Habitarim. And Hashem told Grandpa that there's going to come a time, and it's approximately around this time, that your descendants, your children, will become enslaved, be'eres lo lahem, strangers in a foreign land. Va'avadum ve'enu otam, 400 shana. They're going to be persecuted and oppressed. That time is going to come. And his father Yitzhak told, Grandpa had this vision, don't forget. This is part of our history. It is coming. Yitzhak passes away, and Yaakov is thinking his whole life, it seems like it's going to be me, but we're pretty comfortable over here right now in Israel. So I don't really see when. And now I'm 130. So I kind of figure it might skip over me at this point to one of my kids. And this whole scene occurs, and he gets over the emotion and the crying and the aspiration to see his son, and he gets into perspective. And the big picture now forms before his eyes. And that is, I'm about to live out the Brit Ben Habitarim. I am going down. It is me who's being thrust into exile. That's happening at this very moment. And therefore, at that very moment, Yaakov very much understood that this is the official beginning of the first exile of the Jewish people. And it's terrifying. When that reality hits home, it's absolutely terrifying because he already knows what that means. He knows what the future holds already. The short, not so distant future, and the distant future as well. So let's talk about how he reacts to this fear. So first of all, he goes to Be'er Sheva. What's about Be'er Sheva? Why Be'er Sheva? We have two appearances in Be'er Sheva. First with Abraham, it wasn't the time when Abraham was in fear, but Abraham made a stop in Be'er Sheva, lived there for a while. And what did he do? What did Torah say Abraham did in Be'er Sheva? I'll read you a pasuk, excuse me, Parashat Lech Lecha says, Vayita Eshel be'er Sheva, Vayikra b'shem Adonai el Olam. He planted a tree there and he called on the name of God. Now the Gemara has a dispute what Eshel means. Does it refer to a tree or a garden? But either way, there was a purpose behind him planting that. The Gemara Yerushalmi says that it was a garden with fruits and drinks. It was like a lemonade stand almost, right? And of course, Avraham Avinu, as he's done before, used it as a platform to recruit guests and solicit them and try to bring them under the wings of God, right? So there he planted that Eshel, he opened up the God stand, if you will, in Be'er Sheva. And there he did what he's done often. He did, in fact, made his life's mission. And he called Vayikra b'shem el olam, Vayikra b'shem Hashem, we've seen many times before. There he recruited human beings to the divine mission of recognizing God. And El Olam, actually, Rabbi Moreh Nebuchim says, refers to God, the primal God who always existed. So there was a very, very, very successful location established by his grandfather Abraham in his life's mission to bring people under the fold of God. Second time you saw Be'er Sheva, we just read it, is when Yaakov, his father, feared. Yitzhak, his father, feared. Now, what did Yitzhak do when he feared? Let's go back to that pasuk. When he feared in Be'er Sheva, what did he do? It says, Vayiben Sham Mizbeach. He built an altar when he feared, and then Hashem calmed his fears. Now, where was Yaakov when that was happening? I'll tell you where he was. He was right on the scene. He was a young man. If you do the math, you know what happened? He's already born. Him and Isaac were right there with Yitzhak when that happened. You don't think that was one of his powerful memories as a young man? Where his father was in fear, God appeared to him. He builds him his bayah, he starts offering sacrifices. That was a riveting moment for Yaakov. That was etched in his internal memory, right? So now in his moment of fear, not just a personal fear, a national one on a grand scale, Yaakov Avinu, instead of thinking in an emotional manner, getting caught up in the drama and going straight to see his son, as he said he would, Yosef finally gets to see him alive. Instead, Yaakov takes a beeline to Be'er Sheva. Because right now I'm in great fear. And I know what daddy did. I remember those days. I'm going to Be'er Sheva. I need a message. I need clarity. I need to communicate. He didn't even think about Mitzrayim and Yosef and any of that at that moment. He was super duper focused on the big picture. And by the way, Yaakov went to Be'er Sheva, and what did he do in Be'er Sheva when he got there? It doesn't really say. He communicated to God. But what do you think he did? And where do you think he went? I would bet money that he went down and he actually visited that great site where many years ago, when he was a young man, his father built that Mizbeach. You can bet your bottom dollar that that's what he did. And it doesn't say he offered sacrifices, but could very well be what he did. And so there it is, in that great moment, Yaakov, the moment of truth, took perspective and focus. So how did Hashem calm his fears exactly? What did Hashem do to calm his fears? Hashem responded in a few ways. Actually, the Zohar talks about this. It says he had 3 fears, and he responds to each fear. But let's look at a few communications. Hashem told him, first of all, Legoy Gadol Asimecha Sham. And by the way, this is the 3 fears according to the Zohar. The first is, I'll make you into a great nation. It sounds like that he was a little bit apprehensive in terms of his own survival, right? Will I get lost? Will I assimilate? What's going to happen in moral society, right? What do we say in the Haggadah on Pesach night, right? Hashem told them that it teaches us shahayu misuyanim sham. We read in the Haggadah, you'll be identifiable there. You won't lose your identity there. Don't worry, right? The next one, it says, that means he was worried. Where's the Shekhinah? Where's God's presence going to be? I'll be there, God says. And the third comforting of fear is, I'll take you out. Meaning, will we ever return to this land of Israel? And Hashem says, yeah, I'm there with you, and I'm with you on the way back. That's the 3 basic fears according to the Zohar. But there's another national message of survival over here, and with this will end. Really, Yaakov needed to be comforted, need to understand that he's going to survive in this exile, to maintain a level of identity, and to not get lost and assimilated by this powerful paganistic culture of Egypt he's being purged into right now. He needs to know the Shekhinah is going to be there. He needs to know he's going to get out. And therefore Hashem told him as follows. Ani anochi ered imecha Misraima ve'anochi alcha gam alo. Kli Yakar is the beautiful perush on this. He said, you know, look what it says. He says, I will go down with you. I will go down with you to Misraim, and I will bring you up, gam alo, and also I will go. Look at the order. Hashem says, I'll go down with you, and I'll bring you up, and I'll go up. Hashem, you Hashem. So a great analogy gives the Kli Yakar, and he says that if a child and a father are traveling and there's a ditch in their way, a dangerous pit-like area in the ground, they have to pass it. So what does father do? Father says, let me go first, son. Let me go first. Anochi, right? I'm down, I'm safe. You come down, I'll take you down with me, son, right? And now we walk, and it's difficult terrain. We get to the end, and we have to go back up. Now he says son, I'm not going to leave you down here by yourself. Don't worry. Anochi alcha. I'm going to put you up first. Daddy's on the way, and I'll be the last one out, and I'll go out. And that's what Hashem said. Anochi first. I'm down first. Then you. When it's time to leave, Anochi. I'll be left there I won't leave you there by yourself. You'll go out first. I'm coming right after you, right? Meaning to say, Shekhinah will be difficult to detect. It'll be there. I'll be present. And more Anochi B'Sara, Hashem says. In exile, I'm there throughout with you. That was a powerful gesture of comfort and assurance to Yaakov Abinu in the moment he needed it most. In the moment that he knew he was entering into the first official national exile of the Jewish people. But in the most dramatic and emotional moment in time of the life of Yaakov Abinu, we see, and he demonstrated our forefathers and how great people act during those times. When things settled, their mind focuses, they take perspective, and they think about the big picture and what this really means on a great level for myself, but more important for the nation of Am Yisrael. Amen v'amen. Shabbat shalom.